This, a secret war raging in the shadows of global finance, pitting the US Treasury against the Federal Reserve in a brutal fight for control of the dollar itself. And right in the center, Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, under fire from JP Morgan's desperate strikes to cling to power, taking shots at two key players. All while Tether quietly fuels a push for Scott Bessent's Bretton Woods 2.0. A bombshell article from Marilyn Huddle just exposed it all. The evidence, the players, the high stakes moves that could reshape a 100-year-old monetary system. But who's winning and what does it mean for Bitcoin's future? Stick around. We're diving deep into the battlefield and what it means for you. I am Nathan with the BTC Sessions, and this is your weekly session. All right, let me go ahead and pull in my co-host with the most, Mr. Gary Mahmood. Gary, my friend, how are you doing today?
Very well, Nathan. You talk words so good.
Thanks, pal. I really appreciate that. We got a ton to cover today. There's a bunch of economic news as well as this amazing article from Marilyn HODL and kind of the evidence that goes to support it. So let's immediately kick it into high gear here. Let's see if we can pull that up. So if you haven't checked that already, it's absolutely worth a read. Marilyn HODL basically goes through and outlines how there's kind of these two camps fighting for control over the dollar system right now. We have kind of the Treasury with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin and Tether on one side looking to do a new system. And then we have the existing system, JP Morgan, the Fed, Wall Street, all those guys on the other. And he lays it out beautifully. So let's take a look at some of the evidence of what we're seeing there. First and foremost, I wanted to show you this, just to remind you, just to kind of like illustrate, because Gary, you're always skeptical, as you should be, of where we currently are and evidence that we have to support this. So I want to play this for you here quick too. This is a Scott Bessent speaking about this idea of the existing system changing and where we need to go.
Of the Bretton Woods institutions. Yet everywhere we look across the international system today, we see imbalance. The good news, it doesn't have to be this way. My goal this morning is to outline a blueprint to restore equilibrium to the global financial system and the institutions designed to uphold it.
Catch that, Gary. A blueprint. He's got a blueprint. He's got a plan. We all know that people are acting on their own incentives, but I think there are some games afoot. Additionally, a little bit older, we had this one as well. This was from Real Clear Politics. It was a podcast a little while ago where Scott outlines that he would like to either directly or from the outside be involved in a Bretton Woods 2.0.
I also felt very strongly that we're in the midst of a great realignment, kind of a Bretton Woods realignments coming in terms of global policy, global trade. There's a lot of what I taught at Yale. I've been studying my whole life. I'd like to be part of it, either on the inside or the out.
So we know that they're aware of the cracks in the existing system. There's a lot of evidence to kind of back that up as well too. And for anyone that's not really familiar, like for me personally, I thought like a CBDC, the likelihood was a lot less than people gave it credit, because having the Federal Reserve issue a token, or the Treasury, basically takes away all the power from the current commercial banking system, because they're the ones that get to issue the broader money by the creation of debt. So it kind of completely cut out the middleman. And that seems to be kind of the war that's going on, that the Treasury, at least the arguments being made, that the Treasury is trying to take control of the monetary system, have it backed by gold, Bitcoin, treasuries, and running on stable coins, versus the existing system that is, again, not doing so great. Additionally, I think, Gary, you saw today that there was another article from Marilyn HODL kind of talking about the reasons why this might be beneficial for the U.S. and the dollar, and why the Treasury might be pursuing this kind of path. Can you give us a quick overview of that?
Yeah, they go into a little bit. They're talking about how you basically have the dollar maintain its liquidity around the world, and you'd have Bitcoin backing it, and you'd issue these bit bonds, this innovation, according to them, which would allow us to transition to a Bitcoin-backed monetary system globally, done over the course of maybe a century instead of over like 2 or 3 years, with, I assume, mass fires and chaos and dogs and cats living together. So it would allow the dollar to still be the your standard issue that goes back and forth for buying and selling. It's the I'm drawing a blank here, buddy. I can't think of the word, but we're pricing everything still in dollars.
Yeah, medium exchange, unit of account.
Unit of account. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sorry, I had a brain fart there. But yeah, it'd be backed by Bitcoin ultimately, and that's the idea. And supposedly it solves Triffin's dilemma, allowing business and industry to return to America. I'm still trying to grok that, but that could just be my own stupidity, and I'm gonna work on it. Brain function slow.
even like, I'm not saying this is from a an altruistic perspective. Like, even in the sense, these people all have their own incentives. Like, to be like Scott Bessent and be then the one creating and issuing USD, as well as to be the kind of the legacy of being the man that transitioned to a new system. That all lines up for me perfectly. It's not out of the goodness of their heart, but essentially, like, control of the money was ripped away from the American people to a cabal of shadowy banks back in 1913.
Cabal is the word.
Yeah, exactly. So it almost seems like we have a battle between the government and the banking system, and Bitcoin is just the field at which it's being played on. And I don't think either one is necessarily acting outside of their own interest. They're just trying to seize control, and the old system's trying to hang on to, which makes perfect sense to me. Now, outlining a little bit of like what do we have from Team Treasury going on at the moment. So we can see that like the treasury and stablecoins go hand in hand in terms of buyers and then creating, again, those new currency units. So stablecoin rules force 109 billion in treasury purchases over the last 4 months. And this was just from a couple days ago here. So again, we saw like foreign demand for treasuries are coming down, like who's going to buy the US debt, and like really Tether and the stablecoins have been the biggest purchaser, particularly of short-term debt, which from a business standpoint is absolutely brilliant in the sense that they take your money and they buy treasuries and they collect the interest and they give you a casino token. I think there's like, I remember hearing like there's like 10 to 15 people at Tether. And it's a like $50 billion company. Like, it's absolutely, it's a genius move. It's an evil genius move, perhaps in some respects, but it's a genius move for a business. And so they're going hand in hand, right? They're necessary. And I believe this is all codified in the Genius Act as well, that they basically had to be buying like dollar equivalents or buying treasuries.
Yeah.
So that's where the force of the 109 billion is coming from. But you got those two working together to create a different kind of USD currency floating out there that's buying up the treasury demand. I also had this one as well that you pointed out to me. Gary, maybe you can tell me a little bit about here what we got going on from Congressman Warren Davidson.
Yeah, so this congressman introduced a bill that basically said you can pay your federal taxes in Bitcoin without having to cash the Bitcoin out. You can pay it directly to the government, and in doing so, you don't have to cash it out, and you don't have to pay a capital gains tax. Now, again, individual congressmen work in their own incentives and self-interest, and his self-interest is getting reelected in 2 years. So I'm not trying to read more into it than we necessarily need to. But if somebody really wants to spin this in a positive Bitcoin way, you could say, hey, look, the federal government is willing to take your money in Bitcoin, even at a 20 to 30% loss of not getting the short or long-term capital gains tax, because for them in longer term, Bitcoin's going to be more valuable. Again, this is issued by a single congressman. I'm not trying to assign a level of mental planning to an entire unit that is the state, but you could argue it that way if you want.
Absolutely. And to the point, and to the original article from Marilyn HODL as well, too, it outlines that the Treasury, that the U.S. government would be acquiring Bitcoin, trying to do it quietly as well, too, at least initially, in order to execute on this plan. Bitcoin being one of the collaterals and one of the reserves that it has on hand, which even from our recent conversation, our podcast this week with Dr. Cruz that just dropped as well, he hints at there might be some that, Sailor and strategy might not be what we think, but what an easy way for them to essentially get a hold of Bitcoin is just for the government to assume control or purchase MicroStrategy shares at some point in time, that he could be acting as a secret, quiet accumulation, which might explain some of the other moves that we're going to see here in a second. So more evidence to support this idea that we have the government trying to strengthen their position by acquiring Bitcoin. This would be a way to do it.
May I just personal note? If the federal government thinks I'm giving them any of my Bitcoin, they can go fuck themselves. So continue.
Bitcoin. That's not gonna happen. No way. I'm with you on that one too. They keep doing it by like seizure, which is terrible as well too. You should give it back to its rightful owners. But again, I don't think they're necessarily acting on altruistic reasons here. I think it's purely out of self-interest. And just like we need Bitcoin to protect ourselves, they need it to protect themselves from the crumbling system as well there too. Furthermore, just on that note here, we had from Pierre Richard on November 20th, the state of Texas acquired 10 million of Bitcoin for its strategic reserve. We're going to see more of this. And again, it's kind of like gone out of favor. And I totally get it because we saw these kind of news articles all the time about states getting into Bitcoin, governments getting into Bitcoin. I think I saw another one from Bhutan this week. I didn't even include it necessarily in the show, but it makes perfect sense. Like, the wheels are starting to come off, and we know that at some point in time it's going to accelerate. It's never going to be a linear progression. And I think that what Marilyn's outlining is basically an idea that we can slow the process down, and here's how we can do it for more of a, we'll say, soft transition versus just the outright Weimar scenario. But if this is the case, we're going to look to see more evidence of the Treasury involvement in stablecoins, Bitcoin backing, and basically the commercial banking system and the Fed not being so happy about it. So again, Texas, 10 million. It's not a lot for them, but it's infinitely more than zero. And I think that's the major point. Plus Pierre is great. So I'd love to include him there as well. All right, the other one, and we've seen this going back and forth. Now, Gary, you and I were talking about this, even just brainstorming before the show, that like you were asking, like, what's Trump's incentive? And I said, don't forget, like it's not outside the realm of possibility for him. You've had such a clash between like Trump and Powell, at least publicly, at least what it appears to be. I don't put it past them to basically have the little bit of the ego incentive, to the sense that like, oh, you're going to create things, you're going to make things hard for me. I'm going to take control away from you. So Powell is out in May, I think May 26th. We have from Joe Consorti here, former Coinbase advisor is the front runner for the next Fed chair, and you're bearish. Kevin Hassett seen as the front runner in Trump's Fed chair search, which was, again, former advisor to Coinbase. So they're almost taking their, I hate to say it, but like their crypto guy, but Bitcoin at least, and shoving him into that leading role at the Fed. Not only we're getting basically the doves in control come spring, but then we're also getting someone that is very favorable assuming the helm. Gary, any thoughts on this, what we talked about so far, my friend?
I mean, I don't buy it, Nathan. Trump is a level-headed wise man with no ego, so I don't see why he would do this for ego at all.
I think you bring up a very interesting point. The man does not care about legacy or how he's viewed publicly at all.
Not at all.
That could never motivate him. He would never be out for vengeance against somebody who made him look bad. That's impossible. So with that, we kind of outlined a little bit of what Team Treasury is doing here. But how is the Fed and how is the commercial banking system? And don't forget that I think JP Morgan is like the controlling interest of the Fed as well, too. It's privately owned. It's such a weird, obtuse is the right word? System, in the sense that they give it the illusion of being a government agency, the Federal Reserve, but it is a privately owned banking institution that is run by the largest banking players, with JP Morgan, I'm pretty sure, at the helm. And plus, if you want to dive into the history of JP Morgan and Rockefellers and Rothschilds, like, yeah, he probably would design a system that would keep him in power and have the most influence. So with that, how are they fighting back? Who are they attacking? What have they done? From Bitcoin Therapist, we got a nice post here. So JP Morgan sells shares of MSTR, increases margin requirements from 50% to 95%, pushes for strategy exclusion from MSCI indices, has a history of manipulating the Bitcoin price, calls for lower prices, waits for 35% drawdown, and announces a Bitcoin-backed bond. Is this just a coincidence? Gary, you look shocked. You look absolutely shocked.
Again, I'm the skeptic in the room, so I try not to attribute to grand mustache-twitching conspiracies what could just be a coincidence. But this seems there's kind of a lot of evidence here that, like, all right, these guys are smart. They're a lot smarter than I am. They know when to time things. All right, whatever.
100%, dude. Like they've pushed around. They've got caught so many times for like insider dealings as well as kind of market manipulation. That's why they're like, that was the justification for the regulators and stuff in the first place. I'm sure they've been playing with the gold price for a long time. So I'm sure they play around with a lot of prices all the time too. To think that they wouldn't try to manipulate MicroStrategy or Bitcoin for their own advantage, either accumulation or disempowering it from the treasury. Like 100%, big banks are gonna big bank.
Yeah.
They're going to just try to profit and not give a shit about how it actually, any sort of moral or ethical dilemmas. Those values, Gary, those are for Bitcoiners, right? Those aren't for bankers. That's a wholly different realm. Thoughts?
It's fiat values, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
But also, I'd like to sit here and say I'm an ethical Bitcoiner. I would never do. No, but it's still, I try not to. But I'm ultimately like a fucking human being, and yeah, I will sometimes compromise my personal views if, like, oh, I'm getting paid a lot of money. Yeah, all right. I do have a line. Like, there are certain things I will not cross. But, you know, I'm an actor part-time. I'll shill for products necessarily in commercials that I don't use. Like, okay, sure, I'll do that because I'm a human being. It happens. Yeah. So these guys are human beings with a fuck ton of money. What do you think they're going to do?
100%. 100%. If you haven't checked it out, there is an ad of Gary out there that you should go and find. There's a couple of them, actually, to be honest. So continuing on, we got why strategy MSTR is down 8.4% after MSCI considers index removal over Bitcoin exposure and what's next. So this will be related to the passive flows. And just to kind of illustrate the point that we're making here is that MicroStrategy not only could be a accumulation for the US government if they just assume control or buy controlling interest of it at some point in time, or even just some shares in it. But additionally, it's kind of that bridge between the existing financial world and the Bitcoin world. And for a lot of people, for a lot of large institutions, it was their way to kind of get across if they couldn't have direct exposure. Or they wanted more of like a high beta play, because essentially they're just issuing fiat debt and then buying more Bitcoin with this. And I think that's what's being attacked here, is that JP Morgan, that side of the camp, if this theory holds up, is going after the bridge between the two systems that helps make the transition, which is why they're specifically targeting MicroStrategy, because it is top dog, no doubt about it, and trying to basically take it down or suppress it. So we got big drop in MicroStrategy. Additionally, we had, it looks like JP Morgan has an alleged short on MSTR as well, which I did see some of this that, like, again, it'd be lots of fun to have another kind of GME moment. It would be definitely entertaining. But there was speculation going around that a 50% price jump in MicroStrategy could basically devastate or decimate JP Morgan. I'm not sure if they, again, this is going into like financial engineering beyond my scope. I'm not sure if they got like naked shorts or what's happening here. I'm sure they've hedged it. They can also just, I'm sure there's enough of a, what do you say, honor amongst thieves to get support from the other banks as well too, to cover their positions. I don't think they'd get taken out, but man, I'd love to see them go to the wood chipper for a little bit and take a couple hits. So
yeah, I think you're 100% right. Like, they would never get taken out because the U.S. taxpayer would ultimately bail them out,
or the Fed,
which is ultimately still the U.S. taxpayer.
Yep.
Or just people who use dollars all around the world as their money gets inflated away. So it's not just the U.S. taxpayer. So no, they're not going to go away. But yeah, take it to the woodshed for a bit. Get some people fired. Yeah, that could happen, I suppose.
100%. And I think I saw like, again, I don't know how many people it's actually reflected, but I saw a ton of posts, people talking about like terminating their JP Morgan account, doing the whole kind of like walk away boycott thing, which again, you should do that. Yeah, you definitely should. If you can just go on Bitcoin, that's even better. But there are probably better places that you can spend your money.
Yeah, you see, this is why, again, getting back to why I'm not this ideal Bitcoiner that I'd like to think I am, because I have a Chase account. And I'm like, I should totally do that. But like, oh, God, that's going to take an extra 5 minutes of my day to move it to a different place. And I'm really lazy. So I don't know.
Come on, Gary, do better. You are the hardened Bitcoin champion. You must rise to the occasion.
I know.
You must storm into JP Morgan Chase and scream obscenities as you take your money and leave.
They're very nice people that work at the counter in my local Chase bank. Whatever.
Demons, a lot of them. So, continuing on this, again, we have this main idea that we're looking at potentially a new Bretton Woods system that moves away from the existing monetary system, which disempowers the commercial banks and disempowers the Federal Reserve as well, too. They're not going to take that lying down. So what other shots can we see kind of across the aisle from Team Fed to Team Treasury? Well, we have Apollo and Tether. And they're an interesting one for me. I hear mixed things from different people. I used to think Tether was we'll say a not good counterparty, but I'm not so sure about it anymore. They could maybe be making mistakes, or like they're propping up the US dollar, but they're involved with Bitcoin. I don't know how to make heads or tails of Tether at this moment in time, but the system is broken. Just in, S&P Global Ratings downgraded Tether USDT, setting increased exposure to Bitcoin and gold. Gary, they're at risk because they're holding hard assets. Whatever could we do? The absurdity of this. I just got to point out, I love that we have like the blind lady from
The Big Short. It's perfect.
It is the perfect setup to this too. And it just goes to show you the ridiculousness of the system. Like, oh, you're trying to be, I think they're more than like fully reserved. You've got more reserves than your obligations for US dollars. But your exposure to Bitcoin and gold makes it unsafe, Gary, because that's what they really care about. They care about your safety. Tell me how you feel about that.
I know. And we were talking about this at the beginning. Like, man, I went in wanting to believe that when people say, oh, well, you're exposed to too much Bitcoin, it's just people genuinely not understanding Bitcoin yet. And we have to educate them. But like you and I were saying, if an idiot like me gets that Bitcoin is the solution to this dying system. These people, way smarter than I am, who have way much money invested than I do. I think that's an actual sentence. I'm not sure. They have to understand this. So this has to be a game that they're playing. This just can't be somebody who's just so tied to the old system they don't grok how Bitcoin works. They have to get it. They wouldn't be in the positions of immense power and money if they didn't. Or I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe some people are just utterly stupid. I don't know. Nathan, you're smarter than I am. You tell me.
It could be ego and vanity thinking that there's no actual threat, but I'm kind of with you. There's going to be like that bell curve distribution. And so like never attribute to malice, but you're going to attribute to ignorance, but that doesn't mean that there isn't malice out there. So there's no way that you and I and everyone watching this podcast today, which by the way, if you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button. There's no way that you and I and all the plebs involved with Bitcoin have figured this out. And there isn't at least a percentage of evil people in those higher power positions that realize that Bitcoin actually is the threat and needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's what you're seeing both camps doing. Again, it's not coming from a place of altruism. I think it's coming from a place of self-interest and survival, either to take control of a new monetary system before the existing one collapses or try to save the existing monetary system where they're currently sitting at the top. They have figured it out. Some for sure have. Now, are there a lot that maybe haven't? Yeah, evidence would kind of go to suggest that that is the case, but that doesn't necessarily mean those are the ones in the critical decision placements. Again, it's just another risk assessment. Today's banking system is so based on like inflation, growth, and risk expectations that's where things are like ultimately kind of getting priced, that there's no way they didn't have Bitcoin actually being a threat as like at least a tail risk worth consideration and start to plan or hedge accordingly. And I think this is what we're seeing. And even if this wasn't the case, it was always going to happen at some point. You and I both know that Bitcoin's going to win. You and I both know that the existing system cannot continue to exist, that it will basically implode on itself at some point in time. Now, I do think the US dollar is going to implode next year, or even the next 10 years. No, I really don't, because there's a lot of other shitty fiat currencies like the pound, like the Canadian moose knuckle, like they're all awful and they'll probably die first, US being the last one. But the inevitability of Bitcoin's success, so long as we just say, kind of night watchman overseeing this project, pushing forward the correct information, advocating for it. Again, it's not a passive thing. Bitcoin, even holding, man, with the price dip that we had like the last couple of weeks, it's not necessarily easy. It's not a passive experience. You must be actively learning to have the conviction to actually hold on to Bitcoin. So even hodling is a active participation in supporting Bitcoin. But we know that Bitcoin's going that direction. We know that fiat's going down. We're not alone in that. Right. It's kind of, it's almost like monetary physics at this point in time. It's monetary gravity. And so even if this wasn't the case right now, which I think there's actually a lot of supporting evidence that it is, or at least it's the early signs of this kind of struggle between the two coming up, it was always going to happen. So if not now, it's just a little bit later.
Totally fair.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the supporting comment there. So why can't I see that? Gary.
Yeah, baby.
Well, I'm getting this pulled up here. There we go. Share this 7-7. Never mind. Got it. Okay. Paulo responds to the S&P downgrade of Tether. The traditional finance propaganda machine is growing worried when any company tries to defy the force of gravity of a broken financial system. No company should dare to decouple itself from. Again, I think that they see, because again, he's a dollar creation machine, which is what the commercial banking system is. They're both have the same product. And I think he's trying to offer a better one. He is a threat to the commercial banking system. Tether instead built a first overcapitalized company in the financial industry with no toxic reserves, and yet it remains extremely profitable. Tether is living proof that the traditional finance system is so broken that it's becoming feared by the emperor with no clothes. I agree. This goes to show kind of what Marilyn HODLHODL beautifully laid out, and I got to go through his second article in more detail as well too. Make sure you guys check it out and give him a follow. It's good stuff. It's at least makes you think.
It's an interesting piece, no doubt about it.
100%. Also, which was incredibly interesting, Tether bought more gold last quarter than every central bank. I believe they are the largest gold holder outside of central banks as well too. Which again, I think it's almost like it kind of goes to the transitional period. Like, I don't begrudge people for being gold bugs and Bitcoiners as well too. I think it is doable, and just kind of, I think your optimism about the future really shifts your perspective. Like, if you think things are going to get really bad, you probably stack more in the short to medium term. You'll stack more on the gold side. If you have a more optimistic outlook for like, we can win, we can change things, it tends to be more on the Bitcoin side. But there's no reason that you can't have Bitcoin and analog Bitcoin as well too. I see that as a viable position to be in, and you can adjust those based on how you think things are going to progress. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to be the reserve for all central banks in the next 5 years. And so even if they do like dollar repricing based on gold, you probably could take a win there too. We don't necessarily have to be enemies, but I think at the end of the day, it'll be transitional. Gold would be transitional. And the same way, like you had gold and silver bimetallism for a while there, but eventually the best monetary system ekes the latter out, and it will just be Bitcoin in the future. Timeline, I'm not too sure on that, but I thought it was interesting that they took that position. And even Paulo made comments on that as well too. Tether loves Bitcoin. People are seeing this and concluding that Tether prefers gold over BTC. Wrong. Tether has 87,475 Bitcoin since 2023 and had a policy of allocating up to 15% of its profits to buy more. They're DCing, right? They're doing everything that we should be doing, particularly when the Bitcoin price is down right now. Add more value than you consume. Take that excess value and convert it into Bitcoin and just stack and save. That is the way to go. So we can see that battle rages on. Now, I did have one other person that they took a shot at here as well, which is Jack Mallers. JP Morgan, who had no issue banking Epstein. I just want to read that again. Can I just back up on that one? Let me just back up on that one again.
Say it slowly so everybody can hear.
JP Morgan, who had no issues banking Epstein, abruptly closes Strike CEO Jack Mallers' account. Interesting. Isn't that interesting that we're going after another Bitcoiner here? I'm going to grab another article just to pull up for a second here. But Gary, what are your initial thoughts on JP Morgan closing Jack Mallers' account?
Obviously, they're a company that wants to make sure they're only doing business with the most upstanding, upright people in the world.
Of course, they would never do anything shady like debanking Bitcoiners and creating a whole bunch of issues for them as well. Now, I want to see if I can find this super quick. Yeah, I totally did. Look at that. Working on the fly.
God, you're amazing.
Who else is Jack Mallers involved with here? Oh, yeah. Tether. Tether, SoftBank Group, and Jack Mallers launched 21 Capital, a Bitcoin native company, through a business combination with Cantor Equity Partners. This was, I don't know when this article was put out, but this was like April 23rd. There we go. Austin, Texas. So another one of the kind of Tether affiliates that's working to bridge kind of Bitcoin and the existing banking system, as well as buying up, probably helping fuel demand for treasuries, got taken out. I don't think Jack Mallers he didn't get taken out for anything necessarily unethical or shady. No. He got taken out, at least from the looks of things, for being on Team Treasury on this Bitcoin kind of battleground. And that's why it's being sucked into both sides. Because don't forget, JP Morgan also has the same incentives to get Bitcoin on their balance sheet and kind of strengthen themselves there. They're going to be playing manipulative games to try and take out the other. Bitcoin's just the field that they're playing on.
Absolutely. And that's why they have to be smart enough to understand that this is ultimately a losing battle for them. So their goal, I would assume, is to acquire more Bitcoin and do it at lower prices. You know, I don't think they're trying to overtly fight this tidal wave, I would assume.
I completely agree. It's essentially like they both see the system for what it is, and then they're trying to position themselves as the winner, at least in the intermediate term, in that new order, that new system that's coming about. But the fun question is, why now? Why are things escalating now? Why has this kind of battle bubbled up to the surface? We're going to take a quick break for a shout out to show sponsors. Again, if you're liking the content, please do hit that like button. It really does help out a lot. And if you're new here, welcome. Glad to see you. Check out the tutorial content. Hit the subscribe button. We want to have you coming back around each week and learning the Bitcoin tools. So we're going to take a quick message from show sponsors, and we'll be right back with you.
Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The Tap Signer gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. DEBIFI is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multisig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Coldcard Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional-grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen.
That music just like matches your mustache, like 70s adult film on the nose. Gotta love it. Now, that was an awkward segue. Now, Gary, you might not know this about me, but I'm a dirty ice pack. I'm a snow monkey. And so today is not really anything other than a Thursday for me. But it is a very special day for you, my American brethren. You had a good point about that. So tell us what's going on. You know, I wish I could tell you that I could hear you, but you're currently muted.
Because I'm dumb. It is, but I'm thankful on this Thanksgiving to have you as my co-host handling all the hard stuff here. And I could just hang out and be along for the ride. And that's what Thanksgiving is. It's a time to be thankful. So I just want to say that I am thankful for my life, for my kids, for everything I have. And we talk about Bitcoin, price go up, price go down. And I look at the price far more often than I should. And we've said before, I don't know why I do it, because if it could go up to 500K, I still wouldn't sell. If it goes down to 10K, I still wouldn't sell. And we're trying to figure out all these machinations. But I think in the long run, Bitcoin is going to do what it does. And in the meantime, I just wanted to express my thanks. I have a healthy family. They have grown up in a place where they're not going to want for food. They're not going to want for shelter. There's nobody dropping bombs on their heads, as has been happening in other parts of the world. It just, so, you know, I would just say, I'm grateful. And, you know, for any of my fellow Bitcoiners out there that might feel a bit stressed at times, I think a good thing that any Bitcoiner does is express thanks, express gratitude once in a while. I think that's a very healthy thing. And we call it Thanksgiving. It's the day to do it. And, you know I have it better than 99.999% of people who've ever existed on Earth. So I'm grateful. The price goes up and down. Little things happen. It sucks in the moment. I'm not saying we can't be upset. We're human beings. Things happen. But big picture, I'm glad to be where I are. I'm grateful for you, where I am. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for Bitcoin Mentor and for Ben and for my family and everything. So happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all my beautiful American brethren. I would also like to just take this opportunity to remind you that in Alberta, we have a lot of oil and could use some freedom. If you want to, you know, come up on this fun Thanksgiving, or maybe we'll meet you for Christmas. That could be delightful. Now, continuing on with the wonderful news and stories of the day. Why now do we see this issue maybe bubbling to the surface? Well, it looks like there's some cracks in the existing economy. It looks like the U.S. economy is not necessarily doing so good. So let's take a peek there, which also would explain the Bitcoin recent price action. So I've got here from Zero Hedge, Chicago Manufacturing, Purchasing Managers Index plunges in November.
You did it. You did the
thing.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And plunges, I think, is like an understatement like that, buddy. That I was going to say something a little bit more harsh. That just absolutely cratered, which for anyone who's not familiar, it's just an economic indicator that's kind of giving you the sentiment for the people that are actually like buying supplies for manufacturers right now. Are you buying in new inventory? It's just kind of getting a feel for where things are. I can't even read on the screen where it's sitting at. I think it looks like it's below, can't pull it, but I think like 50 is the middle point on that one. Either way, not good. It means that those in positions of buying resources, inventory, are not optimistic about the coming future, right? So another kind of indicator of where we are. And by the way, like we're going to get to the, don't forget, we have to have Canadian content. Otherwise, apparently my government will shut us down and ban us from YouTube and like make sure that no one can ever hear us. So we'll have the Canada Sucks section coming up a little bit later, but it's not any better. So Chicago Manufacturing PMI plunges in November. What else do we got here? U.S. banks are now sitting on $35 billion in unrealized losses as of Q2 of 2025. Gary, that doesn't look good to me. What are your thoughts?
No, that doesn't look good. I can't even comprehend everything that entails, but that graph sure don't look good.
There is a ton of unrealized losses in the system. Basically, that they haven't actually tried to sell them, so they haven't realized the loss on what's currently sitting there, which I think we'll also see is reflected in the housing market right now as well, too. But again, another indicator of strain in the system, problems under the surface, and why there might be, everyone kind of jockeying for power in position. We have breaking U.S. foreclosure rates surged to 32% year over year. Per atom. My God, I'm struggling to read today.
It's okay. It's the Thanksgiving curse. It happens to everybody.
I know, it's just, and if that wasn't bad enough, so foreclosure rates on houses is going up, and we've got U.S. car loan delinquencies are increasing with subprime 60-day late payments at 6.65%, the highest since 1994 per Finch. Gary, remind me, did COVID and the Great Financial Crisis happen in that time window there?
I believe it was somewhere in there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that was supposed to be like a really bad thing, as I recall. But
I think it was bad.
Yeah, but apparently this is bigger. So, I don't know what to make of it, man. Listen, foreclosures are going up, car delinquencies are going up, and despite the Fed trimming all these interest rates, people still aren't buying homes. I look at even my own market near where I live. It's not like homes are flying off the shelves like they once were, even with the rates going down, foreclosures going up. Inflation is obviously still big. You know, the Fed is saying, well, it's at 3% instead of 2%. We all know that's bullshit. It's way higher. I'm sorry to interrupt with this. I
Go for it.
saw an ad for McDonald's the other day where the deal was $8 for a 10-piece McNugget meal. Like that's the deal. Like that's what it's coming. Only $8. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. In my day, like a deal would be like $3. Like the normal price would be like $5 for like a regular 10 McNugget meal. And Burger King just came to my home. One of these flyers. The discount is $8 for a Whopper meal. Like that's the discount, which means the standard is like what, 10? I don't know. And I'm not, listen, I have the money. I can afford it. It's not like I'm going to go broke or anything, but this is telling me like, geez, man, like these are the prices people are dealing with now as they're getting laid off in a weak job market where AI is taking control, in a situation where they're not able to pay off their mortgages. These are not good signs. I don't know. I don't know what's coming. I don't know how fast it's coming, but these are not good signs.
No, it's a huge reflection of consumer weakness, because you basically have like the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy there, right? People, because those are the things that people will always pay for, right? This is not like we say like elastic demand, right? They will pay for their house because they need shelter. They will pay for their car because they need transport, and they will pay for food because they need to fucking eat, right? Like that just makes sense. And so if you're seeing stress in mortgages, that's a huge reflection of consumer issues. If you're seeing it in cars, same sort of thing there as well too. And then in food, and I did just find an older article to pull up this, because there's another thing on the McDonald's note that you didn't even touch on that's worth noting. Boom. Happy Meal Indicator, a McDonald's trend that means the economy is in trouble. Now, this is from back in September, and what they found was that the number of Happy Meals being purchased was going up. Why? Not because people were having more kids. I would love that to be the case. Because adults were buying Happy Meals because they couldn't afford the main combos. When you see McDonald's doing advertisements for like new deals and these things too, it's another reflection of consumer stress, because it usually means that their sales are down and they're trying to entice people to come back in. If you're at the point where you can't afford McDonald's anymore, you've got no other disposable income. Like you are really wiped out. You are really stretched to the limit in that point in time. And so if you're seeing fast food require deals, back in September, seeing the cheapest meal going up in terms of purchasing power, combined with the car delinquency in the home, it's like you're not going to be able to go and buy something nice, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to buy gifts or like, what'd you call it? Just the disposable income, useless, frivolous consumer shit. Like you won't have any of that.
Yeah.
It's just another reflection of where we currently are. And even if you make the case that it's not reflective of like the broader markets, because like basically the stock market is the US economy kind of at this point in time, it's just that kind of K-shaped recovery thing going on, right? Like 100%. Anyone who's got assets and stocks and treasuries and bonds, and if you've been stacking Bitcoin for a long time, you're probably okay too.
Yeah.
They're like making out like bandits, while the vast majority of people are just getting absolutely raked over the coals. And one of the most frustrating things about this, just to go on a quick side tangent, is that's why you see the rise in socialism and communism outright
100%.
With the younger generations, because they feel completely fucked by the system, which they have been. Right?
They have been 100%. Yeah. They don't really grok or understand the root cause of it, or they're looking for a quick solution. And okay, anything is better than this. We'll just fuck it, throw anything against the wall and see what sticks. I get it. I get the mentality when you're there. You just say, fuck it. Anything has to be better than this. So how many of those people are actually like, I've read Marx and this sounds like a really good fundamental idea? Probably very few, but they're like, anything is better than this now. Let's try it. I get it. And I'm sorry to, I almost missed the point that I was really going to make with the McDonald's and Burger King thing, to really emphasize the fact that, like, this is what's considered a sale, like $8 for a Whopper versus probably the $10 price that it is. These fast food places like a McDonald's or a Burger King or Wendy's or any of the other ones, they, because of their mass production, and also they shrink the size of these burgers over the years, they can hide inflation better than a lot of other places. Like, it is like the very last place that will probably reflect actual inflation. So if these are the prices I'm seeing on something like this, actual real world grocery store, real meat, that type of stuff, inflation, it's crazy. And how people can afford it, I don't know. It really speaks to that K-shaped recovery. It's not good.
No, I completely agree. And also shout out to Costco for the $1.50 hot dog. Legendary that you maintain that. This is why I buy that hot dog. This is why you stack Bitcoin. This is how you opt out of that system. Even just continuing on a little bit here, because I want to share this as well from the home side. Pending home sales in October 2025 came in at minus 1.2% below last year, minus 27% below the long-term average. And going back to the idea of unrealized losses, like I bet you a large portion of that is commercial property, commercial real estate sitting on the bank's balance sheet as well too, that these homes are not moving at the price that people are asking for. And the reason that you're not seeing it basically show up in like the price is because rather than sell at a loss or sell below, they're just not selling. You're seeing that whole market kind of freeze up. But at some point in time, they're retiring, they have an emergency, people have to sell. And the worst part is that, like, real estate trades at the margin of the most recent transaction. So when they go to look, it's comparables. When they go to look at your neighborhood, like, oh, what's Gary's house worth? They'll try and find a similar home in that area and what it sold for. And so if the other guy was like, had a medical emergency and he didn't have insurance because he lost his job, then he has to end up selling his house at like a 100K below last year's value, while the entire neighborhood is reevaluated lower, right? So you got to be really, like, it's showing you strain here that could crack at any point in time. And from the Bitcoin perspective, we know the issues are there. We know how they're going to respond. Money printer go burr. QE is back on the table, baby. It's just, it probably will hurt Bitcoin in the short term if we do see some major kind of economic cracks, but it's going to be like the COVID crash, like 3,000 to 20,000 in no time. Continuing with that, talking about how they will respond. This might be a little indicator of that as well. Gary, I've got the CME FedWatch tool here that has odds of a rate cut in December 10th at 86.9%. So we're looking at CME. They're going to cut in December. That's pretty much at least baked in at this point in time. We don't have that much longer for things to really shift one way or the other. But the point that I want to illustrate is that the Fed is not like a proactive institution. They are purely a reactive institution responding to data looking in the rear view, which means that if they're looking to do a rate cut now, it's because of something that happened months ago, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just another sign that not only are things bad at the moment and getting worse, that they were before this as well too. Not to mention, don't forget, there's that whole the whole jobs report. You remember this?
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, we're going to put out the jobs report, but we're not going to put out the unemployment rate. And then later on, they're like, no, we're not putting out the jobs report. It's just not going to happen. Don't worry about it. Look, Epstein news. Oh, Epstein's in the news again. Ignore the jobs report.
Yeah, man. This gets back to what we're dealing with just as a modern economy. Increasingly, we're looking at what the Federal Reserve is going to do on a quarterly basis to try to plan out anything that we're doing in terms of investments, home buying, whatever. Less and less do our transactions actually reflect real world matters. That's how you get these stocks priced at like 40 or 50 PE ratios, because it has nothing to do with the inherent value of the stock or how well the company's being managed. It's all just like, I need to hide my money here. Somewhere I need to hide my money. Here's the stock market, because it's all based on what the Fed's going to do. And financial decisions just coming down to trying to predict what are these handful of people in some secret room going to do, and trying to read the tea leaves. It's insane. It's insane. And everybody knows it's insane. And we're just chugging along, just down the cliff. Here we go.
You've got $2,000 for like every American born in an account that they can't touch, that can basically only be issued to stocks. You've got 50-year mortgages on the table. We have a rate cut coming up here in December. You've got stimmy checks looking out and going in the US. If you don't think that they see that there are problems and they're trying to paper over them really quick, I don't know what to tell you. We've got a ton of macro tailwinds for Bitcoin in the coming year. I think that people have gotten shaken out. I think that was the point, because you're exactly right. It's a completely fraudulent and stupid system. And even just to further add to that point, You do have this. Layoff notices surged in October across much of the U.S., Federal Reserve report says. Data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland shows that 39,006 Americans last month in 21 states received a worker adjustment and retraining notification, warning them of upcoming layoffs. Now, I had seen it somewhere. I'm not sure if it was. Oh, yeah. Although the tally remains below the spike recorded in the 2008 financial crisis, it is the biggest, I think, since 2020. Yeah, it was, oh, here it is. It was like the largest peak since, I think, COVID. It's just, or what was that one? 2025. Yeah. Just insane. So again, we have layoff notices trickling up. We have signs of unemployment. I know in Canada, I actually know people are getting laid off and getting fired at this point in time. Like it's getting nasty. It's getting bad. And I did want to show, talking about the Fed as well here too. Again, they have information that we don't have, and that information is rear-facing. They're seeing issues crop up in the system here. We know how they're going to respond, and we know what's going to suck up all that liquidity. U.S. market liquidity stress is surging again. Banks' demand for Federal Reserve Standing Repo Facility, SRF, hit $14 billion this morning, and this was on November 26th. Hit $14 billion. That is basically banks scrambling for cash. They do not want to go to this window. And I believe on Tuesday, it was at $10 billion. I'm not sure if it covers it in this article as well. 11 billion and $11 billion on Tuesday, the highest since October, signaling rising pressures inside short-term funding system. Basically, you've got a whole bunch of commercial banks who have access to the Fed window who don't have the cash that they need to settle up at the end of the day. And so they are going to the last resort to hand over their collateral, their treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, which is mortgage-backed securities might not be valued as much going in the future here. They might be underwater on those too. But they're going to basically the Fed and being like, I need you to give me cash. It's a payday loan. It's basically like, you see those, like, what are they, like I want to call them like sharks, but like they like super, we'd say maybe unethical, like payday loans. Like, we're going to give you your check 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
At 27%.
Yeah.
They're basically loan sharks, right?
Yeah.
They've gone to the Fed window for basically a payday loan because they cannot meet their obligations at that point in time. And make no mistake that they will do anything and everything they can to avoid using that window in particular because of the stigma that goes along with it. Because when it's found out, I believe they don't release who actually uses it till months later now. That was one of the things that they changed in the rules. But when it's found out which bank is going to the Fed window, it's basically viewed as like high risk. Don't touch them. Something's wrong there, right? It's like you're seeing a company that has like a whole bunch of layoffs and like, we'd like you to invest. Like, I don't think now's a good time. I don't think that things are necessarily going in the right direction.
I do wonder long-term how severe that stigma will be over the coming years. It just seems like these stigmas have less and less of an impact as people start to see more and more of the system as a whole is just completely fucked. You know, I'm thinking, if I remember, whenever all the banks got the bailouts and they made, I think it was M&T Bank didn't want to take the bailout and like, no. You have to take it with the rest. That way they don't see that, oh, all these banks are in trouble, but you're doing okay. And but I wonder if the same thing happened today. People are like, oh, well, I don't know. Banks take bailouts. It's par for the course. It's what happens now. I just wonder, like, these stigmas, I wonder if will just lessen over time. So people just realize, oh yeah, banks just take bailouts. It's just what we do. That's the new normal. I don't know. Just wondering, just thinking out loud.
If nothing else, they've been trying to push that. They've been trying to push that banks have to access the window, or they don't report on who accessed the window for later on, because they've been trying to destigmatize it to encourage them to use it in order to, again, to try and paper over the issues that are going on. They've been actively trying to remove that stigma. But again, for like bank lending between each other, like they create these currencies out of thin air, right? They can have one bank loan another $1 million and then loan themselves $1 million. And they just create new currency units.
Yeah.
The only thing they're really looking at is like, okay, what is the risk that I don't get paid back? That the perceived risk is what's so important here. And so they're actively trying to do that. I'm kind of with you. They probably will. Like, all this stigma just kind of falls off as things get worse and worse and worse. Like, go back to 2008. It was like 800 billion in bailouts. Everyone's like, oh my God. And then COVID is trillions, right? And it's like, that 800 billion doesn't look so bad anymore in the rearview. So they're at least trying, if nothing else, scary. So good catch, good eye on that one as well. And they will continue. They may even do things like I think they proposed this. I'm not sure if they came through. Like, you have to access the window at least, like, well, we could do like once a quarter or like once a year or something. Like, make you take the money like you do the bailouts, just to try and hide in the crowd who's actually swimming naked.
Yeah.
I'm just mixing a whole bunch of metaphors here.
No. I totally get it. This reminds me of a story I'll tell you afterwards, a personal story. But
sounds good. We'll do it off air. Now, we're going to take a quick break for our last shout out to show sponsors. When we come back, you think the U.S. is bad, Canada is even worse. And we also got some interesting on-chain information about what the whales are currently doing versus these smaller accounts that I think is worth noting. Again, if you're having a good time, if you're enjoying the content, please do hit that like button. It really does help us out. And if you're new, subscribe so we can hang out every week. Take a brief break and we'll be right back with you.
Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? AQUA Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. AQUA also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, AQUA is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download AQUA Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, ColdCard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan.
All right. Let's keep moving along. Now, for those of you Americans, it's fun to sit and have a laugh at Canada as well, too. And make no mistake, basically, the authoritarian, tyrannical, central banking regime is setting up to mandate that we have to prove potentially that we're Canadian content or that we provide Canadian content. So, Carney, you want Canadian content? Fine. Fuck you. Here we go. So I thought, sorry, I get a little fiery. I thought this could be a little bit fun. Gary, why don't you read some of these headlines for me so I can get your real-time reaction to what's going on in Canada?
Mexico officially overtakes Canada as the #1 U.S. trading partner after decades. Wow. Now, I don't know. A lot of Americans aren't going to be too keen to hear that the brown people are winning.
A lot of Canadians should be reacting to this. The fact that the relationship between Canada and the U.S. has become this strained is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, without the U.S., make no mistake, you know what I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for the U.S. right now. Despite all the flaws, all the issues that's going on there, you have no idea how screwed this country would be if we didn't have a giant buyer of our goods, our resources below us, that also defended the largest border. It's just ridiculous. Yes, you're heavily flawed. Yes, I have my criticisms. I'll be Albertan first. I'd choose U.S. second if I could. Moving right along and how I really feel about Canada. Again, you're going to make me do this content. I'm going to tell you what I really think.
Mark Carney on losing #1 trade status to Mexico. Who cares? This sounds like a New York Post headline.
I've got, if you check out this one, I've got pulled up on screen here from Steve Soretsky.
Oh, okay. Greater Toronto new home sales had the weakest October on record. Just another month, another record new low for new home sales in the GTA, Greater Toronto area, for those that aren't in Toronto.
The Ontario housing market, much like the U.S., even more so, is just grinding to a halt. And I think to even a larger extent that the mortgages and Canadian real estate is the biggest asset, I believe, on our commercial banking side on their balance sheet. And so much of Canadian wealth is just generated from real estate. It's just fugazis, right? It's just made up currency because they're printing the crap out of it and homes go up. Plus, they've been increasing immigration like nobody's business, devaluing the currency. And so everyone's like, oh yeah, I made a killing on my home. It's like, no, you didn't. And it sucks compared to how it did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that seems to be running its course because we actually have people leaving Canada now, as well as just kind of no one's got any capital. So there we are. There's good 2025 as compared to all these years prior. So again, if these it's become an illiquid market. If it starts to move, watch those prices just tank. The next one here, I'm not sure, Gary, if you're even necessarily aware of what's going on here. Try this one on for size.
Dakota Nation's claim title to mineral-rich corner of Manitoba valued at $1.3 billion annually.
Yeah, fun one. So basically, all of the native tribes are coming out and saying this is ours now. All those years of going we acknowledge the land that we're on. We got more and more coming out of the woodwork and going okay, that's mine then. and actually making a claim over the title. So property rights in Canada, gone by the wayside. Even going back, funny enough, to that point that you had about like companies being overvalued. Just for reference, NVIDIA is twice the value of Canada right now, which, don't get me wrong, we suck, but we do have a lot of like uranium and oil and stuff. You could enslave us. There's some good labor there. So I think they are a little bit out over their skis. I got this one here.
Major breaking. BC residents are suing the EBI government. EBI? I knew that. I was just testing you. In a class action lawsuit claiming they lied about the Cowichan land claim. Cowichan? Is that how it's pronounced?
I think it's Cowichan. Could be Cowichan. I'm actually not 100% sure.
And they continue to collect property taxes knowing the land title wasn't secure or marketable. Oh, all right. That's fun.
Yeah, so they're going ahead and they're getting what do you say? They're getting bit in the ass, or they're taking a drink of their own medicine. That basically what they're doing is saying like, okay, if we don't actually own our property, then we're not paying property taxes, which is great. I love to see that. I'm sure this will eventually get settled in the Supreme Court, and it probably will just be reestablishing property rights. But my God, just what a cluster of everything that's going on here. Well, I want to dive, we'll probably do a podcast in the future diving into this one a little bit more detail, because it has major implications for like the banking system as well as just property rights in general. And speaking of EB and BC, how are things going in BC right now?
Vancouver's homelessness scene, the worst in Canada, at 73 per 10,000 residents. It's all the proof you need that NDP policies are a total failure. Vancouver is a socialist cesspool.
It 100% is. So we've got an unbelievably large population of homeless in Vancouver. Again, just a reflection of socialist policies. This one, I'll jump on this one super quick, because I just want to touch on that again, is going to Vancouver's Vancouver Fire Department had a record day for overdose responses. Like, you want to think about how bad things are. Like, your homelessness, your like basically deaths or injury from despair are going through the roof. Canadians are broke. They're getting bent over a barrel. They're being absolutely gaslit by the propaganda machine, because it's just all it's mostly government controlled. And the worst part is that the vast majority still don't see it, right? They blame Trump and the tariffs, which again, it's like, sure, I'm sure they didn't necessarily help, but they do not look inward at all. They're so easily led by the nose. I am unfortunately not bullish on my Canadian brethren at all, and that's why I'm a big advocate for the separation of Alberta, so that we can hopefully survive. But yeah, record day. What it has here is single day. It was 45 VFRS average, 16 overdoses per day. Where was the call? Last week, there was 452 emergency calls into Fire Hall 2 compared to 229 the year before. Like, even the infrastructure, like this, is being strained by how bad things are getting in Canada. And the last one that I want to touch on, go ahead and read that one for me, Gary, because anyone who thinks that having socialized medicine is a good idea, I just wanted to point this out.
More than 23,000 Canadians died on medical wait lists in the past year, new report finds.
Canadian Bitcoiners, one, you should probably already be aware of this. Canada needs Bitcoin more, like Canadians need Bitcoin more than anything. Albertans should be stockpiling as much as they possibly can, because our system is decelerating or accelerating to the downside a lot faster than anywhere else. It is not good. Now, beforehand, I did hint at, like, what are the whales doing? What's going on? What should you be doing? Well, just like I just mentioned, you should be buying Bitcoin. And that's what the biggest wallets are actually doing right now as well, too. So the number of wallets holding 0.1 Bitcoin or less actually decreased during this dip. And to me, that just screams like tourists, or like, just dabbling a little bit, don't exactly know what's going on here, which I don't mean to begrudge that. Because if you've stacked 0.1 Bitcoin and you're just DCAing what little you can after you check, because you've got your expenses, your kids' bills, whatever it is, like, power to you. That is the right position to take. Just keep going. And that will still be unbelievably empowering as we move into the future.
Yeah. And also, not everybody is us. Some people are probably on their Bitcoin journey very early and learning. I know that I made mistakes early on as I was buying, and maybe I should sell this or buy some other coin. So everybody's learning, and this stuff happens. It's understandable.
100%. And if you need to learn to self-custody, which you should self-custody, you absolutely should self-custody, go to btcsessions.ca/learn to self-custody. Let's see if I got that QR code actually here. Ben, did you leave me the QR code? Totally do. If you're new on the journey, head to btcsessions.ca/learn and check that out. But
Nathan, you're so slick.
Thank you. The 0.1, again, that's still like $9,000 US right now. So still, it could be a meaningful amount of money for a lot of people. And it's like, I'd absolutely take another 9 grand here. But you're right. It's reflective probably of people who are newer to the market, or are not necessarily as convicted, maybe just dabbling a little bit. They went down. Meanwhile, the wallets with over 1,000 Bitcoin grew. So even we have it from Green Candle here, which I'll be talking to in the podcast next week. New entrants panic sold straight into the hands of people who've been stacking for years. Weak hands feed strong hands every single time. And again, it's just, it's so easy to lay out. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? You shouldn't sell Bitcoin, but like, I'm going to sell high and buy low. And everyone just emotionally does the opposite. If you're feeling like, we're up over like 10K or like 10K on where we bottomed out here. If you panicked, if that threw you off for a little bit, if you're feeling a little bit shaky, because maybe it's still below your cost basis, the thing to do is not stare at the price chart. The thing to do is to go keep reading and to keep learning and to understand what it is that you hold, because eventually you'll reach that Bitcoin Zen where either the value's grown so much that you're not really worried about it anymore, or that you've just gone down the rabbit hole far enough to really have the conviction to understanding what you have. So if you're getting shaken out here, if you're one of these guys in the 0.1 cap that's feeling a little bit apprehensive, totally understand. I absolutely empathize with you. My suggestion is to keep stacking and keep learning. Gary, any thoughts there, buddy?
I was just thinking how in the future, 10 years from now, we're going to see $100,000 swings, and it's going to be, ho hum. It's what it is. It just shows you how far we've come. There was a time where $1,000 swing was insane. Now 10,000 in a week, par for the course, whatever.
And make no mistake too, like if you can get to that 0.1 position, it's such a cliche trope of the YouTube Bitcoin scene at the moment, like 0.1 Bitcoin to retire. How much Bitcoin do you need to retire? 0.1, like that number gets thrown out a lot for whatever reason. But if I'm being honest, yes, on a long enough time scale, that's a massive amount of purchasing power, right? It just depends on what the time scale is. That's still 10 million Satoshis. And if the dollar goes to basically inflates to infinity, then that's essentially, you're going to get past dollar parity at some point in time. I do think that 10 million sats, when there's only 21 million Bitcoin in total, will be a meaningful amount if everyone is on a Bitcoin standard. When everyone is on a Bitcoin standard. So I don't mean to begrudge, but it's just a good indicator of like what maybe some of the newer entrants are doing versus the long-term holders.
Yeah, 100%. And you should be thinking on a long timeline, because even if you think you're so old at this point, like, oh, well, I'll never be able to accumulate one whole Bitcoin for myself or whatever. Yeah, you may be right. But if you view this as something to hold for your children or your grandchildren, they're going to be in really good shape. So yeah, 0.1 can make a difference. And someday 0.01 is going to make a difference.
No, 100%. If we're, I think we're currently under 2 trillion right now. I have to quickly double check that. But if we're going after the bond market and the real estate market in terms of stripping away that they're like the global credit markets and the global real estate market and stripping away that monetary premium, then we're going from 2 trillion to 200 trillion, right? So that's still 100x from here. So even if you've only got the 9K in Bitcoin currently, that's going to level up to 900,000, near a mil for you in the future. Like it's still 100% on the table. Either Bitcoin wins, which I think it will, and it becomes the money, or it goes to zero. And I think the likelihood of it going to zero is next to nothing at this point in time, because we have wonderful people in the space constantly building tech, constantly improving it, vigilantly looking over the code. And even just on that note, got an update from Blue Wallet. Blue Wallet is a wonderful beginner wallet. If you are new to Bitcoin and haven't checked it out, it's a very simple to use mobile hot wallet just to get going. Very kind of like stripped down, nice layout. I do love it. It's a good introductory one as well too. And they're integrating Lightning via Arcade, using Arc in the background, as well as I think they're looking at exploring Spark as well too. They always had Lightning that you could connect to your own L&D node, but this is just a way easier way of getting into it, getting involved, and making it simple to onboard new people. So want to point out Blue Wallet, you got some nice upgrades, some nice changes coming there. And this one I want to touch on quickly as well, too. Just an update from that chat control. If you remember, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Basically, the EU was proposing that all your encrypted messages need to be AI scanned for harmful content by the state. Of course, if you're a politician, if you're the cops, yes, exactly. They'll still have privacy, but they are stripping you of your privacy for all messages, which in fact, like Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp, the works, right? Even just like your posts and things. Everything was going to get sent through an AI analysis, which had a false positive rate. I think I saw of like 10%. Oh. Look at how, yeah, exactly. It's just, they're accelerating to the European acceleration to totalitarian lockdown. It's just unreal, right? What they're doing in the UK in terms of free speech and things like this was just horrific. Now we have from Mulvad VPN, which is a good VPN, by the way. You can just buy using Bitcoin, and Ben does have a tutorial on it. An important victory, but we still need to stop chat control. The Council of Ministers in the EU has, after 3 years, now reached a common position on chat control. The requirement for mandatory scanning, including end-to-end encrypted message services, has been removed, which is a major victory. The EU Council failed to implement mandatory mass surveillance. However, in the proposal, They are laying the groundwork for mass surveillance in the future. So, wonderful article here to check out. But the main point is like, yes, we have a win for privacy in Europe in the meantime, but it's not going to last forever. They will come after this again. They are laying the foundation for that. If you have not gone through and learned the privacy tools, even beyond Bitcoin, like Wasabi, Liquid, and Lightning, obviously some privacy there as well too. There's Ashigaru, the fork of Samurai that's available. Learn the privacy tools that you have available in Bitcoin for sharing your value, for obfuscating that, because no one has any business knowing what it is that you do with your money. But additionally, learn into get BitChat, look into private communication methods, right? We have like Signal and Telegram, but they're a bit of a black box because you're not actually, what's what I'm looking for? Like you're not going through, I'm blanking it, when you actually like break up the code. I'll figure the word will come to me later. When you actually like,
we're not going through a central third party that's relaying it. You know, if you're doing BitChat, it's just peer-to-peer.
It's just peer-to-peer on the mesh network. And I'm blanking on the specific term, but like basically when you execute, like installing that code, you're not actually verifying that part. So there's a bit of a black box when it comes to Signal in Telegram on your phone, but there are other things and stuff that you can run on your Start9. You can have other privately encrypted communications, and you should be aware of these. Again, it's like having a fire extinguisher under your sink. It's not that you necessarily have to do it now, but knowing how to do it in the event that you ever need to is what's critical. Just kind of have it ready. Gary, thoughts on that?
2 Dixie cups and a string over here for me, baby.
It's gonna be a long string down to the New Jersey area for me. We will get a Dixie cup string from Alberta to New Jersey before we'll get like another pipeline, it seems, at this point in time. So, I know. Anyways, this has been fantastic. Oops, what did I do there? 1 second here, guys. Boom. There we go. I don't know what I did. Sorry, Gary. I'm still learning.
Oh, good. You're wonderful. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy
Thanksgiving. You have any plans for this Thanksgiving?
I'm just gonna Grandpa's about here. I'm gonna enjoy some turkey and I'm grateful. I'm gonna take the day for what it is. I'm gonna give thanks and thank you to you. You're wonderful. Thank you to Ben and Bitcoin Mentor and BTC Sessions. I'm just gonna enjoy the day. Thank you all very much.
Beautiful, guys. Again, all my American friends, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you enjoy the content, it really does help us out. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll play a little video at the end to encourage you to go check out the Learn page. Why? Because you have to learn how to hold Bitcoin securely in self-custody. That's where the real power comes from. That's what our mission is here. That's what we want you to do. So with that, I am Nathan with the BTC Sessions. This is my beautiful, wonderful co-host, Gary, with the BTC Sessions. And this has been your weekly session.
Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.